Hey guys, I'm Tyler. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about my favorite modifications for R50 Pathfinders and kind of what order you should get them in. So I've had my Pathfinder for about 2.5 years now. I've done a lot of camping, a lot of wheeling with it. So you've got to start with what's contacting the ground. You've got to get some decent tires on your vehicle. Depending on the type of terrain you have, if you deal with lots of snow, you need a tire that's going to be able to handle all of those conditions. So for me, I daily drive in some snow here and there, but I also want to go wheeling on the weekends. So I have Falcon Wild Peak snow rated all-terrain tires, and they're a decent choice for the price, and they've done well. And you not only want tires that are good for the terrain that you tackle, but you also want to be able to air down your tires. So I have a portable air compressor, a little Via Air 88P, and that, it does the trick for me. It airs up all the tires, 10 minutes or less, and at that price, that's acceptable performance for me. I'll have links to all of that stuff in the description of my videos. I have an entire set of what's on my car in every video, and also specific things I mentioned in this video. So you need to have good tires. That's where it starts. If you don't have good tires, you're not going to get very far. Even if you got four-wheel drive, you got to have decent tires. And if you're just looking for a camping vehicle, really you can start and stop at tires. If you have a decent set of tires, I really believe that the R50 Pathfinder has enough ground clearance and has a competent drivetrain to just take you where you want to go, as long as you just put decent tires on it. If you're trying to push the limits beyond what a good set of tires will get you going on, just a good set of 30-inch all-terrain tires, you can start lifting it and looking at bigger tires. Lifting it will give you a little more ground clearance, which is nice. It doesn't actually allow you to fit bigger tires, but it kind of does. If you know a lot about suspension, it doesn't really allow you to fit bigger tires, but it's not a big deal. So beyond that, then you're going to lift it, put bigger tires on it, and you got to go with the spring lifts. Spring lifts are higher performing and way more reliable than spacer lifts. I have videos that detail this, but essentially spacer lifts are just janky. The way that they mess with the front end, they push your entire strut assembly down. I don't think it's a competent solution to wanting to get more performance out of your vehicle. I think spring lifts are much more reliable and safer and perform better in all areas, really, off-road and on-road. So you get that under your vehicle, and if that's not good enough, there's multiple different routes you can go here. So if you find yourself regularly bottoming out on obstacles that you're trying to attempt, you probably need even more ground clearance. The solution to that is a subframe drop, which is expensive, but all said and done, it'll give your entire rocker, panels, and underbelly, everything other than the front diff cross member and the rear diff, will be 3 to 4 inches higher off the ground after doing a subframe drop. The entire kit. And that means you're dropping the subframe, you're pushing down the spacers by the same amount, you're making a pan hard bar drop, you're extending your steering link. It's involved, but I've driven a subframe dropped rig, and they ride great, they perform awesome off-road. If you can get your hands on one or make one yourself, they're pretty good. Now, for me, I haven't done a subframe drop yet, and I haven't really found the need to. It would be fun, and it would increase the number of obstacles that I could do. But for me, what I've found is that I do bottom out a little, but more than anything, I just struggle to find traction. And so I think, really, for most people with the 2-inch lift and the 31s, 32s, 33s that are still struggling off-road, most of the time the real answer is get a locker, front or rear. I kind of advocate for front first because it's cheaper, and if you go on Laka's website, they make lockers for our front diffs. They explain why you probably generally lock the front first on an IFS vehicle, and it's just when you lock the front first, it helps pull you up hills. If you push from behind with a rear locker, you can the nose will wiggle going up hills, and then there's rollover risk. and especially with the limited travel up front, locking it first is helpful. And if you lock the front first, the front sees the nasty terrain first, or uphill, it sees the uphill first. And so if you're going uphill and your front breaks loose going uphill, that shock loads at the rear part of the drivetrain, and then your rear tires break loose from the sudden change in drivetrain, like torque splitting around, if that makes sense. Locka has a more detailed description, I'll link that. But you can lock the front or the rear first. It's not a huge deal, but the front is cheaper and simpler to lock, in my opinion. Especially if you have manual hubs, you just toss in a Locka, you call it a day, and that's what I have. It's been a very reliable setup. Even daily driving in snow, trying to use four-wheel drive, camping, off-roading. I've definitely been able to do more obstacles and tougher obstacles now that I have the Locka. And the obstacles that used to be a challenge, I can now do slower and more controlled, so I'm not risking breaking drivetrain components or damaging my vehicle as much. Now, the thing that pairs really well with the Locka, at least for me, is sliders. So I have sliders, and those allow me to pivot around obstacles a little bit, especially when I have the Locka, because I get hung up, but I still have tires pulling me forward, so I can pivot around obstacles, and I can stay in traction while also, you know, actually kind of being hung up on rocks. But that's kind of the breakdown. So if you're really just trying to get a little bit extra out of these, I really say just toss some tires on it and see how that goes. And you know, a trailer hitch is also a good thing. If you put a trailer hitch on, you get a little D-ring on the back, and then, you know, it's easier to yank yourself out if you get stuck in places. The other thing that's interesting is the R50 doesn't really have front recovery points. Like, those hooks on the front are they're toe points, and in some situations I think you're fine to use them. But if you're planning on getting stuck, the better solution is to get a front bumper that integrates multiple parts of the front end of the unibody and get tow hooks on that that are on the bumper, rated recovery points that are much more solid than the hooks that you find under the radiator on that part of the unibody. Those, I don't know, a couple people have crunched the radiator support trying to yank from those. I don't trust them, and so I usually plan on only getting pulled from the rear in a dynamic off-road recovery. If you just need to get your vehicle pulled forward because you died somewhere, that's fine, but I don't fully trust those things, and I know a few too many stories of people who have damaged their front end trying to yank from those. You're welcome to try. I just wouldn't fully endorse that. Your basic R50 Pathfinder build starts with some tires, get some coils. You have a lot of options for coils that ride pretty well. The Land Rovers in the rear are great. You pop on some Bilsteins, you know, OME, Dobinson, Ironman, TJM, King, all make springs for the front that are available in the US market. The Australian market also has a ton of options. And then you can go from there, but don't be worried about gear. My number one advice is just throw a set of tires on it. If you really want to try this off-roading thing, if you really want to try using an R50 Pathfinder for camping, you got to start with the tires, toss some springs on it, and then see where it goes. Anything more than that, and you're getting beyond what these vehicles had in mind, but it's still a lot of fun and very possible. There's a lot of nice builds that have all the armor, the winches, the lockers, and they go everywhere. And winches are good too. If you can get the bumper with the tow hooks and a winch, there's not many trails where you can't at least just pull yourself over whatever's hanging you up. Winches are a noteworthy addition as long as you find a way to reinforce that front unibody, and usually that's by getting a front bumper. But you know, and then obviously if you're trying to go even further, we're talking, you know, solid axle swaps, double locked. You can even get transfer case gears for the T-case, reduction gears. I think they're 3-to-1, 2-to-1 reduction. That's super rare. I haven't hardly seen them installed, but those are my thoughts, guys. If you think there's anything that I missed, I probably did, Let me know what your favorite mods are for beginners, where you think the best places to start. Overall, I mean, these are decent four-wheel drive vehicles. They're unibody. They've got McPherson struts up front, but it seems like people really enjoy turning these into camping vehicles and getting what they can out of them. For a budget platform, it's hard to beat. These things are getting cheap and getting easy to modify, and I'm enjoying mine. But thanks for watching, guys. Catch you again later.